There's something building in the air. I can feel it, I can feel it. It's pressing down on me and I can barely breathe. Oh, can you feel it? And I'm surrounded everywhere. I can feel it, I can feel it. It's creeping up on me, but what I just can't see. Oh, say you feel it. I'm falling into this unknown. Can you feel it? Can you feel it? There's nothing I can do but to give in to the blame. And then the bass kicks in, and then the bass kicks in, and then the bass kicks in. I can take it, and I lose control. I can shake it, can't fight it anymore. In this almighty road, I'm falling into this unknown. Can you feel it? Can you feel it? There's nothing I can do but to give in to the blame. And then the bass kicks in, and then the bass kicks in, and then the bass kicks in, and then the bass kicks in. I can take it, and I lose control. I can shake it, I can feel it. Yeah, I can feel it. Yeah, I can feel it. I can feel it. Yeah, I can feel it. I can feel it. I can do but to give in to the blame. And then the bass, and then the bass, and then the bass, kicks in, and then the bass kicks in, and then the bass kicks in, and then the bass kicks in. I can take it, and I lose control. I can shake it, and as the crowd begins to fade, it's left me breathless, left me helpless, wanting more. But just as quickly as it came, it disappears and I'm left lying on the floor. But I still feel it.
too high, we'll fight on your side. He takes you back to the edge of safety and security.
Hello and welcome to round number 7 of the AOR rFactor 2 Formula 1 World Championship, live here in Canada for the Canadian Grand Prix. We're here at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve for what will be an exciting race. But first, we've got qualifying and we're live here in Q1. My name is Zack Jones, also known as ZestyOranges, and joining me will be Kenyon, also known as NinjaRider. He's just having some technical issues at the moment. But we're currently in Q1. We've got 12 minutes for all drivers to set their fastest lap, and the top 10 will advance through to Q2. We've got the 3 fastest compounds available here in Canada, with the Hypersoft, the Ultrasoft, and the Supersoft. The pink, the purple, and the red striped tyres. The form this weekend is looking really good for Craig Baxter. Philip Kraus is really up amongst the reckoning, with Kieran Chadwick sort of maybe a tenth or so behind in third, but it really will be interesting to see what the strategy will be in Q2, especially with the people who qualify in the top 10 have to start on the tyre that they set their fastest lap on in Q2. And at the moment, for the best strategy, you would want to be qualifying on the Ultrasoft tyres, as they open up the strategy so much in comparison to the Hypersoft, which is only going to last maybe 7 or 8 laps. It's not a tyre that you can go well into this race. So if you can start on the Ultrasofts, you can really open yourself up. But we're currently starting some hot laps now. We've got, I believe, Max Shepard. Is he on a lap? He might be just making his way around on an outlap. I believe he is now on an outlap. But we've got Kenyon White is coming through. Kieran Chadwick is actually, sorry, my apologies, is the first driver on an actual lap. If we can go on board with Kieran Chadwick. Heading now down towards turn number 8 and 9. They're really a fast chicane that heads now down the long run down to turn number 10, also known as the hairpin, where it really is so important that you don't mess up your braking point, or else you will be thrown out wide. Missing the apex isn't the end of the world at this corner, because it really does give you a good run then along this casino straight all the way down towards the final chicane, down towards the 12 and 13, and right next to the wall of champions. Here in the activating DRS, he'll be looking to brake just after the 100-metre mark. Doesn't want to get on the grass or lock on the inside front tyre. Misses the world champions. He's going to run to the line, and it'll be the inside of the track for the shortest run to the line, and he's going to be setting himself a 1:11.072. So that's not the fastest lap, as Craig Baxter has already beaten it by 1.5 tenths. But we can see now we'll be having maybe 13th position in the form of Dionysius Farios is coming up towards to settle a time. Sab Carpenter, though, in 13th, is coming towards the line now. He's going to set himself in a 1:11.061, so just faster than Kieran Chadwick. Kenyon White has beaten Craig by just under a tenth of a second, which is very impressive from Kenyon to be basically 2.5 tenths ahead of his teammate, who really has looked the goods so far this season. But we can see other times. So at the moment, it's Kenyon White ahead of Craig Baxter, Sam Carpenter in 3rd, with Kieran Chadwick in 4th. Scott Davidson puts in a fairly good time to put himself into 5th position. Callum Roberts in the Royal Blue is in 6th, with Kevin Cox 7th, followed by Tommy Yalato, Adam Cronin, and Jacob Reed rounding out the top 10. So obviously, some drivers still yet to set the time. We've got Philip Kraus coming to the line, 20th position, which make that now 5th. He puts himself up into 5th place, and that's a pretty good lap. We've got 16th and 18th, so we go on board with 16th position. Jukapeka Lala is going to be starting a lap here of this Canadian Grand Prix circuit, heading to turn 1, braking just after the 100-metre mark. He does lock. He's in front front left, which is going to send him a bit wide through turn 2. Now heading up the hill towards turn 3. You don't want to put yourself in a spin there. He manages to just avoid it. Now through 4, and now through 5. He'll be heading up toward turn 5 now. Into 6. This is a really hard corner to get right. And you don't want to spin now as you head through turn 7. It's always so prone to mistakes, especially in qualifying when you're really on the limit. You can see now he's going to be heading out towards 8 and 9. He's going to hit the inside curb there and then run onto the other curb through 9. Manages to avoid the outside curb there through turn 9, but now down towards turn 10, the hairpin. Let's see if he nails the apex or if he stays away from it. No, he's going to just about hit it there. He's now going to short shift to get the best possible run. Short shifting will be the topic here in Canada, especially with fuel being so tight on consumption. The drivers will really be trying to maximise every single milliliter that they get out of their car. But we can see now clobbering the curves through 12 and through 13. Misses the world champion. Chukwuemeka is going to run to the line. He's going to be setting himself a 1 minute 12.1. So that only puts him in 14th place. Chukwuemeka was looking a lot faster than that, so he'll be looking to improve with only 7 minutes left on the clock. Let's see, we've got Craig Baxter in 2nd place, is coming up towards the line, into 12 now, into 13, locks the inside front right, misses the wall of champions, but he's now going to run to the line, the shortest run to the line possible, and he's going to improve. No, he stays in 3rd place with a 1 minute 10.9, so about just under half a second, sorry, half a tenth, my apologies, slower. But Kieran Chadwick has gone ahead of Kean White. So Kean and Kieran at the top. To Kieran has just gone ahead of Kean by 0.73 of a tenth. So we can see, I believe that's the drillers ahead of Craig Baxter in 3rd. We got, must be one of the other drivers has made their way on. Sam Carpenter, though, in 4th place, is now heading down towards turn number 10. Let's see if he manages to keep. Oh, it's a big lock up though on the inside front right. He's going to be slamming onto the throttle to try and minimise the time loss as he now runs up the casino straight now down towards turn number 12 and 13. The chicane that really sets it for you as you head now onto the match straight. He locks inside front right again. Really hit the wall of champions. A bit of oversteer there through turn number 13, but he's going to now run to the line. And what's going to be for Sam? It's going to be 3rd place. He put himself ahead of Craig Baxter. And as Kean White, my apologies, has gone even faster than Kieran Chadwick. It put himself at 10.4. So Kean White really looking good in comparison to his teammates so far this Grand Prix weekend. We can see drivers on the cusp as Daniel Brantham sits about 0.3 of a second ahead of Tommy Alato, who's in 11th. So there's a bit of a gap there between the top 10 and the rest of the field. Evan Rice, I believe, has got a a back grid penalty, so Evan Rice won't be taking part in this qualifying session, so he'll start from the back of the grid, which is always very exciting to see a driver with such speed cutting through the field. We saw, obviously, the 2 Sabres doing it in last time out in Turkey, where they came home for a very good 4th and, I believe, 5th in the end. So it's always interesting to see. Sam Carpenter in 3rd gets out of the way as one of the Defiance cars. I believe it's Craig Baxter, if we can go on board with him, maybe. In 4th place, Craig Baxter sets a 19.5 in the 1st sector, a green 1st sector for him. So he now breaks for turn number 8. He misses the apex there of turn number 9, running over the rumble strip. He's going to continue, though. This will probably be a red middle sector for Craig Baxter. It hasn't been the best of middles, and it is. He's down by just a little bit. We could say Scott Davidson's gone purple in the 1st sector, but we're going to focus on Craig Baxter in 4th place, heading now up the casino straight down towards turn number 12 and 13. Absolutely flying. Let's see, he's going to break just under the 100-metre mark. Let's see if he can break any later. He does, but a little bit of a scrubbing on the front right. Manages to keep it under control, though. He's now going to run to the line. What's it going to be for Craig? It's going to put himself 3rd. So behind his teammate, Scott Davidson's put in the purple middle sector. He's actually put himself 2nd behind Kean White. So Kean leads Scott, leads Craig, leads Kieran, leads Sam. Is the top 5. We've got Callum Roberts, who just puts himself into the top 5 there with a brilliant 1 minute 10.8. That's fantastic to see from him. We've got Evan Rice, does not have a penalty. He actually is out qualifying. He puts himself in 9th place at the moment, behind Kevin Cox and ahead of Jacob Reed. So Dano Brantham pushed down to 11th place. We can see one of the Zesty cars ahead of Craig Baxter. in what will be 7th place, I believe, is out on circuit right now. Philip Kraus puts a purple first sector in as he heads now into turn 8 and 9. Let's see if there was any... Manages to just keep it under control there as he heads now down towards turn number 10. See what the middle sector is going to look like for Philip. He's down. He's a bit of a red sector. Sam's gone purple in the middle, but we're going to focus on Phil. Heads out of turn 10, gets the best possible run onto the casino straight. It'll be a long straight where a lot of time can be gained and a lot of time can be lost. Activating the DRS, flying down towards turn number 12. This will be the most critical braking zone of the entire lap. Doesn't manage to lock up a front tyre through to 13. Now up towards the line. Seb Carpenter goes second by less than a tenth. And Philip looks to have extended, so he backs out of that. So it's currently a saber 1-2, with Sam just about a tenth of a second behind his teammate. Obviously, track limits is a very important factor, and if you are found to extend in one of the either Q1 or Q2, you get a back grid. If you get, I believe it's a Q1 and a Q2, you get a plus 5 second penalty to your race and a back grid as well. So really making sure that there's no unfair advantage gained by the drivers, but Kenyon will be making sure that he hasn't extended and he is put himself ahead. But it's sort of the drivers you wouldn't really expect. Obviously, Kenyon being beaten fairly regularly by Sam and Scott being fairly regularly beaten by Craig have really turned the tables here in Canada. And so far looking pretty good with 1 minute 35, sorry, on the clock left in this session. We've got 5th place. Kieran Chadwick heading through turn number 12 and 13. His big slide, a big spin there through the final. He was purple, I believe, through the first sector, so he was looking fairly good. We've got Callum Roberts in 6th place. He's also on a lap as he heads now down towards turn number 10. Picking up the end of the lap. We're on board now as he heads through turn number 10. A lot of lock there. That'll not be doing the tyres any good. Bit of a slide there out of 10. Too eager to get on the throttle. We've got a car weaving in front of him. I believe it's one of the Sabre cars. He's going to activate DRS. There's going to be a bit of closing speed. Hopefully this car in front of him realises what's going on, and we might have a bit of blocking. No, he gets out the way, braking heavily though as Callum Roberts manages to keep the car under control. Big slide out of 13 and into the wall. And that ruins any chance of a bit of an improvement for Callum Roberts as he gets pushed down to 7th by Kevin Cox, who puts himself up into 6th place with a fantastic 1 minute 10.7, I believe. So that's looking good for Kevin Cox. Cam White, though, leads Sam Carpenter still, with Scott Davidson in 3rd, followed by Craig Baxter. So we've got drivers on the bubble. Is Tommy Yalato in 10th at the moment, just ahead of Dano Brantham. But we've got a spin. P number 20, I believe, has spun round. That is Matthias Christensen has spun round. Got a yellow flag, I believe, for him, but we've got 15 seconds left on the board. Let's see, as we've got drivers that are starting laps. Craig Baxter in 4th. If we can go on board with Craig Baxter in 4th, he'll be starting a lap now, heading through the first sector split, braking just after the 100-metre mark. He goes purple through the first sector, does Craig. Now running up towards turn number 8 and 9 after he goes through 7. Fantastic run there through turn number 7, under the bridge now, braking heavily for turn number 8. Locks the inside front right, but manages to keep it on the curb through number 9, out onto the rumble strip, out on the exit of turn number 9, now down towards turn number 10. Got to make sure he doesn't lock up a tyre. He manages to keep it under control, misses the apex of turn number 10, but that will give him a good chance of a fantastic run now, down towards the casino straight, down towards turn number 12. The checkered flag has fallen here in Q1. Philip Kraus puts himself up into 9th place. Craig Baxter braking for turn number 12, now into 13. He's going to run to the line to get the shortest run to the line as Philip Kraus goes purple and Craig Baxter backs out of it. Intentionally it looks, but he sets an 11.4. So Craig Baxter will finish in 5th place. But we can see any other drivers that potentially might be improving. We're at 16th place at the moment. Max Shepard is the last driver that's going to complete a lap as he heads now down through 12 into 13. Misses the wall of champions, and Max Shepard's going to run to the line. Will he be able to put himself into Q2? No, he just misses out. He puts himself into 13th position, ahead of Dano Brantham, but behind Evan Rice. But at Philip Kraus, who ends up ahead in Q1, ahead of Kieran White. Sam Carpenter comes through for 3rd. Scott Davison in 4th, followed by Craig Baxter, Kieran Chadwick, Kevin Cox, Callum Roberts, Jacob Reed, and Jeff Jacobs round out the top 10. They'll be advancing to Q2. 7-minute session, and they'll be driving on the tyres that they'll start the race on when they set their fastest lap. But really, I think 11th place, which is Tommy Yalato. I think he's in a very, very good position to do very well in this race. Starting 11th, you have a complete free choice of tyre, which means that you can start on the ultras and not be too far behind the rest of the pack in comparison to maybe DNS's Farias, who starts in 18th. So he's in a good position to do quite well in this race. Do some different things for strategy, and you could really pull something out of the bag, like maybe even a top 5 if he really, really nails his race. But we're into Q2, 6 minutes 50 on the board. You're going to see who's the first driver out onto the track. I believe it's Kieran Chadwick in 6th place. Kieran Chadwick will be the first driver to set a lap. Comes out on the ultra soft tyres, so the sort of the middle ground tyre compound for this race, which is it's a very interesting strategy call, because if you are to start on the ultra soft tyres, you really do open yourself up to run longer in the first stint, and to open yourself up for different strategy options. If you start on the hyper softs, you might run 6 or 7 laps at most, and then that'll really compromise your race. But we do have the ability to start on different compounds if you qualify on them. So Kieran's going to have a go at it. Kevin Cox in the Vulcan is definitely going on the hypersofts, but we're going to ride on board with Kieran Chadwick, who's going to set the fastest lap of this Canadian circuit so far this session, because he'll be the first one to start as he heads to turn 12. Going to start to wind up the wick through 13, onto the rumble strips, onto the main straight now, heading down towards turn 1. We're going to see where he's going to brake. Will he brake just after the 100-metre mark? He does. He nails it there. Misses the first apex, though, of turn 1. Now into turn 2, bit of a slide. Got to make sure it doesn't spin up. Gets a bigger oversteer there through turn number 2. Now into 3. He's going to make sure he doesn't cut the inside curb. He misses that. Now through 4. Runs over the rumble strip. Now into turn 5. Doesn't want to cut or hit the wall on the inside. Now into turn 6. Through the first sector split to 19.6 through the first sector, which is immediately elapsed by nearly 2/10 by Craig Baxter. But we're going to keep with Kieran Chadwick as he heads now down towards turn 8, under the bridge. Now through turn 8, now onto turn 9. Runs over the rumble strip as he heads now down towards turn number 10. Let's see where he's going to brake. He brakes just after the 100-metre mark. Manages to not lock up, but gets a bit of a slide there. Bit of a rear locking through turn number 10. Now over the curb, now down the casino straight, activating DRS. The longest straight on this circuit. Philip Kraus goes purple in the first sector and in the second, but Kieran Chadwick's going to brake heavily for turn number 12. Now through turn 13, past the wall of champions, going to be running towards the line, the shortest possible run, and it's going to be a 1 minute 10.704, which is immediately elapsed by Craig Baxter by a quarter of a second. Let's see where Philip Kraus is in 4th place. He's going to run to the line, is Philip, and let's see what it's going to be for Philip Kraus. He puts it on provisional pole by just over 1/10 of a second ahead of Craig Baxter. Kieran Chadwick in 3rd, Scott Davison in 4th. Sam Carpenter puts himself up by 1/10 of a second up into 2nd. Kenyon White puts himself into 4th with a 1 minute 10.6, so pretty impressive. Jacob Reed out of nowhere puts himself up with a 1 minute 10.545. Kevin Cox now puts himself up into 5th. So the drivers at the moment that have really impressed me is Jacob Reed and Kevin Cox have put themselves ahead of the championship leader and Kenyon White and Scott Davison as well. So it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, some of the top front runners there did set their time on ultra softs, which maybe Jacob Reed and Kevin Cox chose not to do, which would be a good strategy call, I think, to try and put yourself up ahead on the grid, surprise everyone with a pole position potentially, but then have a shorter first stint.
Hey, Zach.
Curtis, hello.
I made it in. Can you believe it?
It's sensational. You get the final 3 minutes of qualifying.
I mean, I've been in here for Q1, so I saw the drama unfold. My God, where did Kraus come from?
It's a sensational lap. An absolutely sensational lap. Obviously,
and then he sets down a stunner, an even faster lap in Q2.
Hopefully it's legal, but he's now heading into the pit lane. He's not going to set another lap. Let's see who is, though. We've got 8th place. Scott Davidson is going to start a lap, unless Craig Baxter is on a lap. He's gone purple through the first sector on the ultra soft tyres. Heading up now down towards turn number 8 and turn number 9, a chicane. Really, the Canadian circuit's just made up of a set of chicanes, but all different in nature.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually the challenge of this track. You have to hit each chicane like slightly bit different to get that proper exit out of there, especially coming into turn 10 here, where Baxter's sliding through the apex.
That compromise his run up the casino straight. Yeah, he'll be activating DRS. I think he's going to continue on this lap. He did go green in the middle sector, but his final sector will be compromised heavily as he has through turn 12 through 13, misses the wall of champions. He's going to run to the line. He'll have a chance to do one more lap after this. It's going to be pole position by not even a tenth of a second over Philip Kraus, sliding his way through turn number 10. He puts it on pole. A sensational lap by Craig Baxter. Obviously, time in the bag for Craig, so it'll be interesting to see how much he improves as he comes back out onto the track. But the train at the moment, Scott Davidson's leading the pack. We've got Kevin Cox on a lap in 5th place, if we can go on board with him. As he heads now, following, I believe that might be Kenyon White, as he heads now. Sorry, my apologies. Kevin is also on an out lap. He's on the Hypersoft tyres, the pink marked, stickiest compound available. The driver that'll be leading them all is Scott Davidson. He'll be the first one to set a lap. So if we go, see where as he heads now along the back straight, casino straight down towards turn 12 and 13. Scott Davidson's now going to be starting a lap here, this Montreal circuit, down to turn 1. Misses the apex just slightly of turn 1, now through turn 2, nails the apex, got to make sure he doesn't spin under throttle, manages just to avoid that, now into turn 3, and then quickly into turn 4, one of the first chicanes on this circuit, now into turn 5. Let's see what he's going to do through the first sector split. It's going to be a green first sector, no, not quite purple, but it will be enough for him to improve, I would assume. Oh, big moment there for Scott Davidson. Gee, he almost ran to the wall there through 7, but he's going to be heading now, braking heavily for turn 8, misses the inside apex. A scruffy lap so far from Scott Davidson. Big snap of oversteer as he heads now down towards turn number 10. It's been scruffy, but it seems to be probably enough for him to improve on his 9th place at the moment. As he's going to be the last of the runners going, because Jeff Jacobs has decided, you know what, I'm not going to set a lap here in Q2. So let's see if there's any improvements going on. Craig Baxter's currently setting fairly decent first sector in comparison to the rest of the field, about 0.2 of a gap, but let's see what the gaps will be through sector 2. Scott Davidson now going to run towards a line. It's going to be,
oh wow,
4th place, a purple final sector for him. Craig Baxter now has gone purple in the middle sector. Let's see what Craig Baxter does as he heads now up towards the casino street. As Kraus has now gone purple in the first sector, so it's game on here between the Defiance and the Zesty car. Let's see, we'll see if Craig will be the first one to set his time, so we'll see what he does as he brakes heavily now for turn 12, into 13, misses the wall of champions, activating DRS for the final time. He's going to run to the line, and what's it going to be for Craig Baxter? It's going to be an improvement, just. Let's see what Philip Krauso is going to do.
Oh my god.
And he 8 thousandths of a second behind Craig Baxter. Craig Baxter puts it on pole position, and everyone else has completed their lap. So it's Craig Baxter who snags pole position here for the Canadian Grand Prix ahead of Philip Kraus, with Sam Carpenter coming through for 3rd. Scott Davidson lines up in 4th ahead of Callum Roberts, Jacob Reed, Kevin Cox, Kenyon White, who is looking very impressive, and Kieran Chadwick, the championship leader, down in 9th place with Jeff Jacobs, not setting a lap.
An interesting little bit of tidbit of information there. For some reason, Jeff Jacobs is actually on the pinks. He's on the hypersofts, but he didn't set a lap. He did go out, but he just never finished a lap. So,
well, the good thing for him is that he will start 10th, but he can start whatever compound he wants
because he never finished a lap. Correct?
Exactly.
So he actually set a lap. Yeah.
If he plays the strategy right, will start on maybe even the super soft to really go really long in this race. But I believe Philip Kraus will start on the ultras. Craig Baxter will do the same. I don't know if Sam Carpenter managed to qualify on the ultras, but we'll have time will tell. The grid will be set now. We're just going to see. Maybe we can go through the Drivers' Championship ahead of this race. We'll just see on the graphic, is it pops up? So we've got Kieran Chabek leading the way by only 4 points over Craig Baxter in the Defiance. Obviously, a tense race, a tense conclusion last time out in Turkey means that Kieran Chabek extends his championship lead from 1 to 4 points. Sam Carpenter in third in the Sabre with 84 points. And with that win for Philip Kraus, he really starts to put pressure on Sam Carpenter in third. So maybe Philip might be looking to potentially get third in this championship. Would you think, Curtis?
Definitely. He's got his sights set for, I mean, with his strong qualifying position, he might just possibly make up some decent ground on Craig Baxter. Really just comes down to how Craig decides to finish the race as well. I mean, if it turns into a 1-2 Baxter-Kraus or Kraus-Baxter, Chadwick is going to have his work cut out for him, as it doesn't really look like he's super fast here so much.
Yeah, it looks to be struggling, especially with the straight line speed. Might be running a lot more downforce than his rivals. But in fifth place in the championship, we've got Tino Nakarainen. DNF'd in the last race out in Turkey and not racing today, but he still holds on to that fifth place. I would think would be taken by Ken White at the end of this race, who sits in sixth place with 32 points, just 2 points behind with Evan Rice in seventh, only 2 points then behind Kean. So it's incredibly close between the midfield, fifth down to seventh, only separated by 4 points.
And that can go either way, really. I mean, Kean, he's looking super strong here in Canada, and he managed to somehow fix whatever driving style he had, and he's not fully locking on every corner.
Oh, that'll be fantastic. Hopefully his tyres can last more than 5 laps and he can really put some pressure on the drivers ahead. But Callum Roberts lining up in 8th in the championship so far. Equal amount of points to Scott Davidson, who's had an absolute torrid start to the season, as Scott. His teammates sitting there second in the championship with 109 points. He's sitting there with 18. It's been tough for him so far.
Yeah, he's had a couple of no finishes. He's had some traffic problems he's been dealing with as he's trying to make his way through the field. But he is starting to learn. He's getting faster. He's just got to get that consistency going for the rest of the season. He's got another 10. He's got 10 rounds to figure that out.
I would think he'd almost be driving for his seat at Defiance for the next season, because obviously some new faces. Obviously, we're all new faces, but new faces in terms of sim racing really, really impressed. Obviously, Philip Kraus, the likes of Callum Roberts, Tina Nakarainen really came out of nowhere, but they've been very impressive. And obviously, Tommy Alato sitting in 10th place for Royal Blue in the championship with 14 points. It's a very good day. He could score more points as well.
Yeah, and he's been impressive as well. I mean, he got a 5th, and where was that? That was at Baku, I believe. Yeah. So it's not like he's not fast. Again, another consistency issue. He needs some experience, I think, before he can become a threat. But Tommy's strong. We're going to be keeping an eye on him throughout the season.
Yeah, if we can move now to the Constructors' Championship, which is very close indeed. We can see that KRT lead the way, just slightly ahead of Defiance Racing, 143 to 127 points. With Defiance, obviously, Defiance sort of struggling in terms of points because of the fact that Scott's had such a difficult start to this season. But
yeah, if
Scott was to maybe get some more points, it could be very close indeed for Craig and Scott, also known as Defiance, to maybe put some pressure on KRT, Kieran and Evan, to maybe try and take the constructors' lead.
Possibly. It's going to come down to how Kieran and Evan end up racing, though. Defiance is going to need a little bit of luck, or for oh god, I blanked on his name. Darn it. Not Craig.
Scott.
Scott. To find some speed and really get some passes going. And he's got to get some qualifying speed up as well. It's a little bit tough.
I believe he's starting 4th, I think, today. So that's a very, very good position to go for. His best finish so far this season is, I believe it's 5th in Azerbaijan. He got a 5th place. He was on for a podium in Spain, but obviously had a technical issue which completely eliminated him from the running completely. So it's been tough for him. Obviously some incidents out of his own control, some in his own control, but it's been tough nonetheless for Scott. And then in 3rd place, just about 11 points behind Defiance, is Sabre Racing with A very impressive race last time out in Turkey for both Sam and for Kenyon, a 5th and a 4th from last on the grid for both of them. It was a fantastic drive for both drivers.
Yeah, that was a crazy run. Unfortunately, I did miss that race, but I caught it the first half of it before I had to go do some real life stuff. They have a chance here with Sam sitting up in 3rd and Kenyon sitting 8th. Kenyon looks like he's cleaned up a lot of his driving techniques, and he's just looking super smooth. And this is a track that sort of suits his style. He's a very, not reactionary, but more of a kind of a twitch style where he cuts into a corner very quickly. And this track does reward that. You have to be very quick through these corners and accurate on the gas and the brake, which Kenyon is usually when he's not under a ton of pressure. So he's going to have to keep his head down and try to keep up with Sam.
Yeah, they'll be looking to potentially overhaul Defiance in the championship. If Defiance have a bad day, obviously they need to outscore them by 11 points to put themselves ahead of Defiance. But they won't be under too much pressure, I wouldn't think, from Zesty Racing, who currently sit in 4th. A win last time out in Turkey. Fantastic result themselves up. But all of the 77 points for Zesty Racing have come from Philip Kraus, with Dano Brantham yet to score a point. He lined up, I think, in maybe 13th or 12th or 13th place as Dano, so it'll be a very good opportunity to maybe move forward, try and keep a clean nose through the first couple of corners here in Canada, and then move forward in the race with a few DNFs and maybe some poor strategy calls in front of him, and put himself well inside the points for the first time this season.
You know, Dano definitely has the speed to get there. He's got the technique. He's got everything. It's all there. He just needs to put it together and keep his head on straight, and he'll be okay. But he's out there. He's getting experience. Unfortunately, I don't know just how much experience Dano has, but it seems like he is passionate about it, and he's here every race. You can't fault him for not being here or not starting. He's definitely in it for the long haul.
He's only missed one race this season. He missed Bahrain, but he's had a string of results that were sort of... He had a 12th in Australia, a 12th in Azerbaijan, a 14th in Spain, a 21st in Monaco, and then an 18th in Turkey. So yet to score points, obviously. He's Robin Bondon is in 22nd place. He's got 1 point. He's the lowest person in the championship to have scored a point, and Dano sitting in 24th. So he's right on the cusp of getting himself up into the points. A good result where he scores 6 or so points could put him up 16th, 17th in the championship, and really gives Zesty Racing a really good boost, I guess, heading into the next races. I think Austria is the next race up. But looking to 5th, there's a bit of a gap for Zesty to ACR Zack Speed, who's sitting 5th place with 48 points. They sit just ahead of Royal Blue with 32. And then it gets really close, 7th to 10th, separated by, what's that? 6 points.
6 points, yeah.
6 points. Drillers Motorsport, freshly recoated in a nice sky blue, really reminiscent of the the Sabre car, sorry, but a beautiful car nonetheless. Sit there with 14 points, the exact same amount of points as S2 Racing from Germany. And then 3 points behind them, it's Visceral Sim Racing, Noah Chiller, and Jukka-Pekka Lalu. Jukka-Pekka was looking very good in practice. Hasn't quite produced the same result in qualifying, but he might have the race pace to move forward heading through this race.
Yeah, no, I think he will. It's just a matter of, again, keeping your head down, making sure you hit all those marks and don't spin up the tires. And really, that's kind of tips for everybody at this track. If you're not very easy on the throttle, you are going to be punished for it. And Jukka-Pekka has had some history of spinning up his tires and heating them up. And with this new tire model, got to be careful of that, because the tires do not cool off. They do not like to be pushed too hard.
Yeah, and then obviously Wolf Racing sitting in 10th with 8 points. I think David Prskowski is serving a race ban for this race, so he's not allowed to race due to an accumulation of penalty points. So he'll miss out on these 49 laps of Canada. He'll be back, I would assume, for Austria next week, I believe. But Matthias Guldager, his teammate, is continuing on for the team. I think 8th, quite far down. Guldager in the Guldager would be, I would think, is a lot further down than 8th.
Yeah, we'll have to check on that again. But Guldager, yeah, just kind of representing his team this time out. And I have a feeling he just wants to keep his nose clean.
He needs to do that. That's the main thing. I think that he and David need to do. They've accumulated between them. They've accumulated more than double the amount of points they have in penalty points. So that's not a very good statistic to have against your name and against your team. So, but David might learn from this race ban, might come back and be a re-energized, a different driver that might really show that pace that we saw in Baku, where he qualified, I believe, in 7th on a set of super softs, which were like a compound harder than what was being run by everyone else. So he's got the pace, but he just needs to keep his nose clean.
Warm-up is just about done, and everybody just finishing up their laps and figuring out what they're going to do as far as race strategy. And you got to make sure they get that pit entrance just right, because it is fast. You're going full speed, and you got to cut your speed down to the pit speed limiter before that line, and the curves that come into the pit lane. It's a tricky one, but you got to nail it. Otherwise, you'll start to lose time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'll be very interesting. I'm really focused on this race start because it's so close in terms of the rundown towards turn 1 as we now build up towards the start of the race. Well, here we go. We've got 49 laps ahead of the drivers for this Canadian Grand Prix. We're currently on the formation lap as the drivers prepare the tyre temperatures, getting everything all checked. But it's going to be Craig Baxter who's going to lead them off this start. He's another pole position to add to his collection so far this season. Has been fantastic in qualifying. He's ahead of Philip Kraus, who's in 2nd place for Zesty Racing. Obviously, the winner last time out in Turkey. He'll be looking to maybe do that again as he starts on the ultra soft tyres. Sam Carpenter lines up in 3rd, ahead of Scott Davison with a very good qualifying that could give him some well-deserved points. We've got Callum Roberts for Royal Blue, who lines up in 5th place. A fantastic result for him. So he'll be looking forward to this race.
Jacob Reed, just outside of the top 5, had himself a fantastic qualifying session starting on the Ultra Softs as well. Keon White, who's had some issues during racing, but he's looking to clean things up and made a couple of changes to his setup. Kieran Chadwick rounding out 8th place in the KRT car. The championship leader struggling a touch in qualifying, but he will be looking to move to the front. Tommy Ilato starting on the supers, the hardest compound here for the weekend, in 9th place. Evan Rice rounding out the top 10, also on the supers.
We've got Kevin Cox in the Vulcan racing car starting on, I believe it's the Hypersoft tyres. Yeah, it is the Hypersofts for Kevin Cox. Ahead of his teammate Matt Shepard, who lines up in 12th place. Dan Ove Branthome lines up in 13th, starting on the Ultrasoft tyres. Ahead of Jeff Jacobs, and we've got Adam Cronin in the Drillers Motorsport car, the beautiful blue, white and dark blue Drillers Motorsport car in 15th place.
Adam Cronin. Man, that's a beautiful car. I haven't had a chance to look at it till now. Chukapeka Lalu, all red, Ferrari-esque. Rocking the Hyper Softs. Luca D'Amelio in the other Drillers car, also on Ultra Softs. Dionysus Faros in 18th place. Dominic Lambrecht's 19th, and running out the field is Matthias Goldagger in the Wolf Racing car. He will be looking to keep his nose clean and make a couple of good passes as they start to line up here pretty quickly, coming down that Casino Straight. These DRS zones are super important. They have to nail them because they will not be able to hit top speed without them.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see the slipstreaming. Obviously, fuel's going to be incredibly tight for every single driver. I don't think we've got anyone staying from the pit lane, so we shall be all good in terms of that. It'll be 20 drivers firing their way with the shortest run, I'm pretty sure, down towards the first corner of the season. We shall now wait for these 5 red lights as the drivers line up on the grid. It's going to be Craig Baxter on the inside for turn 1. as we now wait for the 5 red lights. Someone hasn't lined up properly. They're now going to build towards the 5 red lights. It's lights out and away we go here in Canada. It's a fairly good start from Craig Baxter. He's going to lead the field into turn 1. Philip Crash is going to try and go around the outside as they head now into turn 2. Sam Carpenter is now switched back. Is going to try and go around the outside of Philip Crash as they head now down towards turn 3. It's going to be Craig Baxter who's going to lead Philip Crash. Just as seems to have edged Sam Carpenter out. It's going to be Craig Baxter who now leads ahead of Philip Crash with Sam Carpenter in 3rd, followed by Scott Davidson in 4th. Callum Roberts maintains 5th, with Kenyon White moving up to 6th. Jacob Reed down to 7th. Kieran Chabik up to 8th. Max Shepard already up to 9th, so put himself inside the points. Tommy Yalato in 10th, which rounds out this top 10 of this field. Seem to have all gotten away, but Craig Baxter's really starting to gap the field. Philip Crasso looking really aggressive to try and make sure he doesn't get ahead, but there seems to be a fairly equal gap between the top 3 cars.
Top 3 absolutely duking it out right now. They just want to keep each other in their sights as they move through the hairpin and down the casino straight here fairly quickly. A couple of lockups in the midfield, but nothing to report other than that Kevin Cox moved up to 10th, and Evan Rice and Daniel Brantham 12th and 13th respectively. They had a little bit of a rough start, but Tommy Lato is still sitting in 11th, threatening for some points.
Now, Craig Baxter is going to come along the main straight. He's going to lead here after 1 lap of this Canadian Grand Prix. We're on to lap 2 of 49. It'll be Craig Baxter who leads ahead of Philip Crass, Sam Carpenter in 3rd, Scott Davison 4th, followed by Callum Roberts, Kenyon White, Jacob Reed, Kieran Chadwick, Max Shepard, and Kevin Cox rounding out the top 10. So someone's dropped back. Tommy Yalato starting on the Super Softs dropped from 10th down to 12th. So hasn't worked for him so far, but they may take a little bit of time to get up to temperature, and then he might be able to attack.
And not only that, he'll be able to outrun his competitors on the Ultra Softs. So, and even on the Hyper Softs. So he's got to just keep his nose clean, try to stay with the people in front of him. He might be able to gain a couple of positions come pit stop time.
Yeah, if he can just keep the pace of an Ultra Soft, he's basically going to last longer than they would. So that's perfect strategy 101 right there. But he seems to be holding station down 12th place. But Craig Baxter leads the field. Philip Krause is not letting him get away. Philip's gone purple in both the first and second sector here in lap number 2. So Craig will already be knowing. He knows that the more he can save fuel earlier on in the race, the less he has to do at the end, and the more he can attack at the end of the race. So if Craig, I would not be surprised if Craig is purposely being slow to A, save fuel, and to maybe invite Philip Krause to pass, and for Craig just to sit in the slipstream, save fuel for, let's say, 5-10 laps, gets the fuel that he needs to, saves it all, and then can blast ahead, take back the lead of the race, and take the win. It really is a game of strategy here in Canada, in both tyres, fuel, and position that you want to be in. So it's all to play for.
Especially with these quick, short stretches between the Senna S's. They got to be careful on those tires, though. You don't want to lock them up. You don't want to allow those tires to get super hot. And that's something that Krause and Sam Carpenter and Scott Davison will be keeping an eye on, as Craig Baxter's still leading him through as they come under the bridge towards the hairpin.
So we've got Kevin Cox now ahead of Max Shepard. So the Vulcans switch places, 9th and 10th respectively now for Kevin Cox and Max Shepard. So they head now into turn number 10. As you can see, Evan Rice starting to look really threatening on those super soft tyres with Max Shepard just in front of him. So we might see if we can go on board with Evan Rice in the KRT to see if he might be able to get some slipstream, maybe some DRS, but Max going to have DRS on his teammate in front of him. So negating any effect that and any time Evan might gain. As we've got a car that's skipped that was Callum Roberts, I believe, has skipped the final corner. So he had to go through the runoff, which means that both Kieran Chadwick and Jacob Reed have jumped him. So Reed up to 6th, Chadwick up to 7th, Roberts down to 8th.
Roberts looks like he's gathered himself back up. Just a little bit of a braking issue. Probably braked a little bit too late. He wanted to try to get a little bit of time on Chadwick, but that's tough.
So we seem to have got an incident. Do we behind us? We've got big slide there from Kevin Cox. Evan Rice has spun. We're hearing he's down. He's been thrown well down the field. Is he out of this race? No, he's in 20th place. He's lost his front wing, has Evan Rice. So Evan Rice now going to have to make his way. He's only going through turn number 6 and 7 now. So Evan Rice got a long way to get back into the pit lane. So that'll really be a damage limitation for Evan Rice. I don't know if there was any contact between the other drivers or if he just lost it on his own. We're hearing
It's
he
really
just lost
easy.
it under throttle.
It's really easy to go a little bit too quickly through these corners. If you get on the throttle just a touch too early, the front end will wash out, and that's probably what happened to him in one of the Senna S's.
We're having a bit of a Baxter train here at the front end of the pack as we go into lap number 5. Craig Baxter only 0.4 of a second ahead of Philip Kraus. So Craig not pulling away by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm almost absolutely certain that it is fuel management is the main call for Craig Baxter at the moment. Try and just manage as much fuel as possible, limit the amount of fuel, and just try and save for the end of the race. But Philip Kraus, he also might be doing the same. He might not be pushing as much as he could. Might be short shifting, which is the absolutely key way of saving fuel, especially around Canada.
Yeah, you're on the throttle something like 80% of the time. It's one of the harder tracks on an engine and turbos and everything, so you do have to be careful on the downshifts too. Very easy to blow up an engine, and we'll be keeping an eye on that, of course.
Evan Rice now pulls out of the pit lane, still on the super soft tyres, but down in 20th place by quite some way, about 40-odd seconds. So he's got a lot of work to do. He's going to have to hope for some retirements at plenty if he's going to get himself up back into the points. As we can see, Craig Baxter leading the pack by just about 4.5 tenths of a second. Philip will be in the DRS. He will be using it. But as we've got a big Philip Kraus almost overcooks it there through turn number 1 and 2. That'll allow Sam Carpenter to get very close. Will Sam make a move into turn 3 and be very audacious? No, he thinks better of it.
Sam was actually looking at him through the last sector, pretty much the last corner, but he wisely did not try to make a pass there as the Wall of Champions looms there right at the end of the track.
We've got Scott Davidson sort of a rose on the thorns. Really, he's on the hypersoft tyres, and the only one around him that is on those hypersoft tyres. We've got Kenyon White on the ultras. I think Kieran Chadwick is also on the ultras. So 2 cars in front and 2 cars behind us, Scott, are on the harder compound. So Scott should be able to attack the cars in front, but he seems to be falling into the clutches of Kenyon White, who's going to be looking quite aggressive here. He might be activating DRS as we head down the casino straight down towards turn number 12. There's no change at the front. We're going to go on board with Kenyon White. He's going to go for the move. Up on the inside into turn number 12 goes Kenyon White, and that's him up now into 4th place, just off the podium. It'll be interesting to see if Scott will attack him back into turn 1. No, he just doesn't seem like he's going to be able to. But Kenyon White there gets on the grass and almost spins. Huge amount of oversteer through turn number 2 and number 1. And that's just, you've got to be very, very careful.
Yeah, no, you do. And the other thing, too, is he's trying to gap Davison a little bit. And he had the chance to do that through the front stretch because he made the pass coming onto the start-finish line straight. So on top of that, of course, the DRS sensor zones are, coming up onto turn 10 and just after turn 10. So because of that, White had the DRS through the start-finish straight as well. So Scott didn't, and White was able to get a little bit of a gap on him. I believe, though, that Scott Davison still has the DRS available. We have to see if he uses it.
He's going to have to hope so, because here comes Kieran Chadwick. The hypersofts, I would imagine, will be going off for Scott Davison. He might be driving in maybe at the end of this lap, but Kieran Chadwick's going to pull side by side now into turn number 12. And is he now ahead of the Defiance car? He is indeed. Yeah. Scott Davison, though, continuing out as we start lap number 8 of this Canadian Grand Prix. See if there's anything else going on the back of the pack. We've got Kevin Cox peeling into the pit lane from 12th, 13th, 14th. Now he's dropping down the field like an absolute fly. Down to 15th place. Make that 16th. So he'll be put to the back of the field. Yeah. As we've got the duo of drillers cars, Emilio and D'Amelio, my apologies, and Cronin, 11th and 12th respectively, after not starting that high in the race. So they're looking quite good. Both these drivers. I think that was Max Shepard. He's out of the race. So let's see what he's broke the suspension. He lost a front wing. So Max Shepard out of this Canadian Grand Prix here on lap number 8. Let's see. I'm just going to have a look here on the replay function, see what happened to him. He lost it heading out of turn number 4 and just spun around like a pinball into the wall. That's him out of this race. So another disappointing race for Max Shepard. We've got Dominic Lambrex has also lost his front wing. He's got a very bent suspension down, 16th place. So something has gone amiss for Dominic Lambrex. He cuts across the gravel trap there. Something has gone. Look at the steering input.
Yeah, he's trying to stay out of the way, really, more than anything. But yeah, that's one of the dangers of this track. You overcook one of those Senna S's, you're going to go into a wall. I mean, the walls are right there. There's just no way to correct it, especially when you're coming out of them. There's so much speed carrying through there that if you just barely miss it, you could really mess up your car. And Dominic Lamprex is very lucky. He'll be diving into the pits here, I'm sure.
It's Philip Kraus has got a 1.4 second gap over Sam Carpenter. Only 6/10 though to the car in front in the form of the race leader Craig Baxter. Interesting to see if Philip will be wanting to make a move in this race at this point in the race, or just save fuel.
Callum Roberts has also hit the wall.
Callum Roberts, has he lost a front wing, or is he?
He has not. Looks like he just got a little bit squirrely coming through the second set of Senna S's. Yeah.
Dano Branthome, 11th place, is now going to start to put a move into turn number 10 on Adam D'Amelio. My apologies. Emilio's going to try and hold it around the outside. And he almost does it. There's a bit of love tap there from both drivers there. They're now going to go side by side now onto the casino straight. They're going to both have DRS. It's going to be a simple drag race down to turn number 12. Will Brantham be able to pull ahead as D'Amelio is going to start to pull ahead? They're going to be braking for turn number 12, and D'Amelio is just going to hold on. Mamma mia, that was a fantastic move around the outside to keep himself into 10th place. Robert pulls into the pit lane, so he must be starting to feel the pinch with his hypersoft. Sorry, we're going to go through all three compounds. Hypersoft tyres. D'Amelio gets a bit of a slide there as he hit in 10th place. Branthome looking pretty strong so far in this race as Cox comes into the pits yet again, so maybe there might be a bit of a penalty for Kevin Cox. It definitely is a bit of a penalty for Kevin Cox. He's doing a drive-through penalty. Here's Kevin. Comes out of the pit lane now. So a bit of a trial by fire. We see Matthias Gordago keeping out of any incidents. 14th place, a very good race so far from him.
Yeah, he's had a pretty clean race. He's just like he needs to do. Keep that nose clean. Don't hit any walls. Don't overcook your tires. And he's already up to 14th after starting, I believe it was dead last.
5th place is about to have a move on 4th. Here comes Kieran Chadwick, going to try and go around the outside of Kian White into turn number 12. Will the move be done for Kieran? It is. He's up into 4th place, is Kieran Chadwick. So Kian might be starting to feel the pinch of some dying tyres. The Ultra Softs might be starting to go off a bit for him. But that is now. Is he on the Hypers? Is he? No, he's on the Ultras.
No, all the Hypersoft drivers are switching over to something else. And I'm looking at Jacob Reed. He's switching over to the Super Softs. Scott Davison is also in the pits. He has decided to go to Ultras. So tire strategy starting to come out here at the Canadian Grand Prix.
Yeah, we've got the top three have really compressed back up again. Craig Baxter going for the old fuel-saving extraordinaire mode. Is he's just going to try and keep going. He's going to try and win the race in the slowest speed possible. I think is probably the best way of describing it. By doing that, he's going to save fuel.
Wasn't that Alan Prost that said that?
I'm just going to claim it. I'm going to claim it and say I said it.
You know what? It's all you, Zach. It's all you.
Okay, thank you. But Philip Kraus is only 0.2 of a second behind Craig. Will he make a move into turn number 12? No. He thinks better of it. Doesn't want to hit the wall of the championship. He might have a fantastic run out of turn number 13. Let's see. Sam Carpenter might even be close enough to make a move. Philip Kraus might have to look in his mirrors rather than looking ahead. So he head onto lap number 12 of this Canadian Grand Prix. We've got, I think Dominic Lambrecht is out of this race as well. Yes, he is. So Evan Rice is last of the current runners, down in 18th position. Callum Roberts just ahead of him, though. So
we got Jukapeka Lalu into the pits as well as Jacob Reed. Reed is on the Supers, and I don't remember if he was a part of any on-track action, but Lalu has changed tires. He's going to Super Softs as well. So there's some definite tire strategies coming out here, and we're going to see some long mid-runs. I'm fairly certain of it. Do we know how long the Supers will last? I unfortunately didn't get a chance to look that up.
No, I'm not 100% sure. I would say maybe 13, 14, maybe in 15 laps.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, it's sort of around that mid-teen mark. But Philip Kraus he's only 0.4 of a second behind Craig Baxter. Both Philip and Sam will have DRS, but Philip Kraus looked incredibly close indeed. He's going to try and go for a move up on the inside into turn number 12. He flies over the curb there, so Craig Baxter will have a fantastic run into turn 1. Craig Baxter might be calling for the position to be changed, but he's going to go back up on the inside into turn 1. I think Philip Kraus led him back through. Sam Carpenter goes for a half-hearted move there into turn number 1. I think there's a bit of jostling for position, a bit of position changing going on there, a bit of a distraction. Sam Carpenter's a huge slide through turn number 2. Manages to keep it straight on the narrow on the track.
Sam had a run coming out of turn 1, or 2, I should say. He might have been able to overtake Kraus or even just put more pressure through the S's as Kraus got a little bit sideways coming through. I believe that was turn 6, if I'm not mistaken. So
Maybe,
he'll need to clean that up.
Yep, we've got most of the drivers are still yet to pit. We'll just check. I believe it's the top. Hang on, I think it's the top 6 or maybe the top 8. My apologies. Yet to pit. Actually, we've got Scott Davis, and he has come in once, so the top 7 are yet to pit. But there are some drivers behind Scott who have pit. You can see Craig Baxter leading the field. Just over 0.8 of a second ahead of Philip, so a poor first sector from Philip Kraus meant that Craig's managed to pull a little bit of a gap here. With Adam Cronin up to 7th, Yolata up to 6th, so obviously, yeah, position changes plenty.
Yeah, Tommy Lato putting on a heck of a show right now, finding himself in 6th place, looking for some great points there for Royal Blue. Dan O'Brantham sitting in 10th place. He's looking mighty fine for some pace.
Oh, Philip Kraus flies across the...
Wow.
Philip Kraus flies across the grass there, and he's going to be down now into 4th place. So Philip Kraus with a crucial error, locking, I believe, the front right as he headed into turn number 3. So he's down now to 4th place. So a costly mistake for Philip Kraus. Those ultrasofts must be going off an abrupt cliff.
No, they're not. He was trying to defend 2nd place, trying to make a pass on Craig Baxter. He must have overheated them, overcooked him coming out of the hairpin, maybe. It's tough to tell exactly because he has been pushing since the start of the race. 13 laps on those ultrasofts is a little bit much. He's going to need to come in.
He lost 3 seconds in the first sector alone. He's lost another 6 seconds in the middle. So those tyres must be screaming in agony. Let's see if we can see any lights that might give us an indication of pitting. No, he's going to soldier on.
Meanwhile,
Tommy Yolato in 6th place.
Craig has managed to open up a 2-second lead now. All the fighting for the rest of the podium spots is really just giving Baxter a huge advantage, as Baxter basically is going to have to come in here pretty quick. But he's managed to save these tires fairly well. Rocking the ultra-softs.
But Dan O'Brantham's lost his front wing, and he's in from 10th place. So probably the best place, I think, to lose your front wing.
Yeah, I guess.
Oh, it was a big incident. He got a bit confused there between D'Amelio and heading into the pit box. He just snapped it off as he was entering the pit lane entry. So. Oh, okay.
Not too bad, but still
let's see if that front wing, has it been replaced on Branthone's car, or has he come out without a front wing? He's come out without a front wing.
And D'Amelio
so that is
out, by the way.
D'Amelio is out. So he's been hit, and he's broken his spin. Well, that is possibly the worst luck for Branthome. As he was coming into the pits, the crew just said, you know what? Nah, no, nothing for you. He spun round, he's lost his rear wing, and Dano Branthome is out of this race. I believe his first retirement of the season as Philip Kraus, his teammate, comes into the pits from 5th place.
Yeah,
with the front wing and all elements on his car.
It looks like some frustration on the part of Branthome. He was having a little bit of a rough race, trying to get up into the points, and I think he just got either frustrated or there was just too much damage, and with the damage not being repaired, it's kind of not really much you can do, and he knew he was dangerous on the track, so I give him props for getting off and getting out of the race.
It was rough for the team not to fix the front wing as he went into the pit lane, but you'll have to look to make sure that just doesn't happen. You can't allow yourself to make those mistakes, but Kieran Chadwick in 3rd place, pouring the blowtorch on Sam Carpenter as they head through turn number 10. Seeing how good a run that Kieran can get on Sam, you might be able to use some DRS along the casino straight down towards turn number 13 and turn number 12 as well. In the DRS, it's going to be 0.2 of a second. Here comes Kieran Chadwick on Sam Carpenter. He's going to go up on the inside. Sam Carpenter pulls into the pit lane.
That was weird.
Craig Baxter does as well. So the top two in the race pull into the pit lane as Kenyon White also comes into the pit lane as well.
So Chadwick up into the lead. We've got Kevin Cox that was out with an accident. It looks like he must have crashed out. Didn't quite see what happened there. So we've had 5 retirements already just in the first 16 laps.
The race of attrition.
Yeah, no, this track is tough. You have to nail every single corner properly in order to stay fast, and that's something that usually Kenyon White can do fairly well, but he finds himself in 8th place right now. And honestly,
the undercut,
Baxter, Davison, Chadwick, they all can do this, but they have to nail it. I mean, dead on, or else they will not be in contention for even a top 3.
Scott Davison set the fastest lap of the race on that previous lap to put himself ahead of both Sam and Philip Kraus. That was a monumental outlap for Scott Davison, put himself up in what is effectively 2nd place. So it's at the moment, when Kieran Chadwick pulls into the pit lane, it will be a Defiance 1-2. So you can see Kieran Chadwick just going to continue on here on lap 17, starting lap number 18 of 49 here in Canada. He's just managing the gap, making sure that nothing can go wrong here for him.
He's got an 11-second gap to manage.
Yeah, he'll come out most likely in 5th place. I would think. But Tommy Alato, yet to pit in this race in 6th place, is ahead of Kenyon White, who's going to be starting to close in. Philip Kraus goes purple with the fastest lap of the race by about 1/10 of a second.
He actually made the pass on Sam, coming through the DRS zone. So
was he? I thought he was ahead.
He's back. He's ready to go.
I thought he was ahead of Sam after the pit lane. I'm not 100% sure, but he seems to be ahead, and he's going to be that'll be effectively 3rd place once Kieran Chadwick pits, unless Kieran's pulling the absolute overcut of the world of dreams.
Or the nightmares of his competitors. One or the other.
The nightmares. For him, it'll be a dream. For his competitors, it'll be a nightmare. But let's see, is he going to pull into the pit lane this time? No, he's going to continue on. He's going for another lap here. Going to extend this ultra soft stint as long as possible. But the good thing is, he's done this in Spain before. He did try the one stop in Spain. I think this will be another race where he will try it, because if he can make these tyres last 20 laps, that'll leave, let's say, 30 laps to the end of the race as Gelato comes into the pits from 7th place. 30 laps to do on a set of super soft tyres are pretty achievable if he's going this long on ultra softs.
I'm trying to watch his steering inputs, and it looks like he's got the car set up to push just a little bit, but it likes to rotate right in the center of the corner. He's kind of got a little bit of a NASCAR setup, if you will. And it's working for him. Working very well for him. Flying through this track, but Craig Baxter's already made up a couple of seconds on him. So Chadwick will need to pit quickly if he wants to be in contention for even a podium, it looks like.
Speaking of work, Philip Kraus has put in some serious work and has closed right up to the back of Scott Davidson. The ultra soft tyres may have passed their use-by date, as Philip Kraus is now on the set of super softs, looking very ominous. As the leader of the race, Kieran Chadwick comes into the pit lane. We can see Philip Kraus is going to be all over the back of Scott Davison. Will he go up for the move on the inside of turn number 12? Yes, he is. He moves up now into what is 2nd place in this race. Will Sam Carpenter be able to capitalise on a slow exit from Scott Davison? Sam's right up the back. He's going to try and go up on the inside into turn 1. Here goes Sam Carpenter down on the inside. What a move from Sam Carpenter. Puts himself up into 3rd place in this race. Kieran Chadwick's going to re-emerge in 5th place. A couple of seconds behind, but Scott Davison struggling on those ultra soft tyres may be gobbled up by Kieran Chadwick pretty quickly.
Daniel Cefaros sitting in 9th. He is into the pits now. He's on supers. He must have been racing pretty hard if he's already cooked those things. I don't believe he started on those tires. So Yeah, he's got a couple of issues to still deal with, but sitting fairly well in 11th place, having a great day here in Canada.
Philip Krause has gone about a tenth of a second faster than Craig Baxter in the first sector alone. So head through the second sector split now, we can see, oh, Philip Krause pulls out 2 more tenths on Craig Baxter. So Philip, you're going to start to close the gap on Craig Baxter. The gap is 1.5 seconds between them. Craig may have saved enough fuel to get to the end of the race.
Maybe, possibly.
Potentially, perhaps.
Hard to tell.
Hard to tell. We're not even halfway through this race, and there's been action aplenty. DNFs aplenty. We're down 5 drivers from what we had at the start of the race. Max Shepard, Dominic Lambrecht, Luca D'Amelio, Dano Brantham, and Kevin Cox all out of this race. I believe both Lambrecht and Shepard and Cox lost it on their own. D'Amelio and Brantham were involved in an incident themselves between the two of them in the pit lane entry.
Now, D'Amelio and Brantham were battling hard. There was some contact.
Very.
You know, wheel-to-wheel stuff. Looks like they were just kind of fighting pretty hard. D'Amelio trying to defend his position from Brantham, is, from what I saw, the little bit that I saw coming out of turn 10. And if you don't get a good run through there, and you're trying to come up through the gears, spin the tires up, yeah, I can see where some of that can happen. But Brantham did give him some room, but there will definitely be some reviews of that incident, I'm sure.
4 tenths is the amount of time that Philip Krause has closed on Craig Baxter on this lap alone. He went purple through the first sector. He set a fairly good middle sector in comparison to Baxter, so the gap is down to a second now. Will Philip Krause be able to get some DRS from Craig Baxter? Craig Baxter on the super soft, Philip Krause on the super soft, Seb Carpenter on the super soft, so very close between all three.
Kind of just looking through the rest of the field, and everybody's just kind of calmed down a little bit, trying to get through the middle part of this race, save a little bit of fuel, maybe get those tires worn in as Adam Cronin actually comes into the pits. He's going to be switching out his ultra softs.
22 laps on ultra softs, very impressive.
I believe that's his second pit.
No, he hasn't pitted yet. It's his first pit stop of the race.
Oh my goodness, wow.
Very impressive from him indeed.
So a tire run. Cronin showing some skill with those tire management, huh?
Back end on a set of ultra softs, so he'll be going ultra hyper, I would imagine, in this race.
Imagine so, yes.
Sam Carpenter's gone purple in the middle in the first sector. Has gone marginally quicker than both Baxter and Krause. So Sam Carpenter might be looking to put a bit of a charge on here in this race, but Philip Krause is very close. There's 4 tenths of a second between Krause and Baxter here on lap 22, or the end of lap 22, and the start of lap 23. Philip Krause in the DRS zone. Will he make a move into turn 1? Is he going to be close enough? No, just not quite close enough. 3 tenths of a second between them. It's just so close between the drivers. Philip Krause gets a bit of a slide. So we go on board with Philip Krause. The Zesty Racing car, the orange and blue. Beautiful machine making his way through turn number 5 now. This first sector split. Not bias commentary at all, but it's completely fair. No bias at all. It's sensational.
No, absolutely zero bias. Because let's face it, Craig Baxter also has a beautiful car, but he's purple, not orange. So whatever.
The Cadbury car leads the orange as we head down towards turn number 10.
Look at Carpenter making up some time on Krause, though. Krause is going to have to be really careful not to spin these tires up or get any lockup while he's at it.
I don't know what we can compare the Sabre to, but that's a conversation for another day. Philip Krause is going to be in the DRS of Craig Baxter. Craig will be looking to turn he definitely has turned the engine down. Philip Krause is gaining so quickly. He's going to go up on the inside into turn number 12. Philip Krause is going to take the lead of this Canadian Grand Prix back. He's back up into the lead of the race, and Craig Baxter, I think, is now thinking, you know what, let's just sit in this slipstream for 10 or so laps and just absorb and just save a lot of fuel, because that's exactly what you need to do here in Canada.
I have a feeling that Craig might be thinking that Krause will make a mistake and just allow Baxter by again. We saw that before. Baxter was kind of given the lead back, if you will. I believe it was by Krause himself, but Krause has got his head down. He is hitting all of his marks right now. I saw a little bit of a lockup in kind of the normal places, but that's about it. Krause is looking strong here.
Obviously, the winner last time out in Turkey could be the catalyst to kickstart a sensational season. Obviously, been on the podium quite a few times. First of which was in Baku. But he's looking fairly decent as he heads through turn 10. A bit of a slide, but a bit of a slide from his rivals behind as well. As it's going to be Phil Crash is going to lead Craig Baxter, Sam Carpenter in third. Let's see if there's any other close battles around. We've got Kieran Chadwick only 0.4 of a second behind Scott Davidson. So here comes Kieran Chadwick. He wants that fourth place off the Defiance car. But actually, my apologies. Let's go back up to the front because it's incredibly close between all three of the drivers. Craig Baxter, though, I believe, I'm pretty sure, I know him fairly well. He'll just be sitting in the slipstream, saving as much fuel as possible. Really not having to put any work in at all, because if you just sit in the slipstream, you're just not having to do as much work.
Yeah, well, to allow the engine to kind of relax for a bit, save a little bit of fuel. He's just got to be sure that he hits his marks properly and not let the wash from the wings take out his front end. But Baxter's no stranger to aerodynamic racing, and he knows exactly what to do. And just that little bit of a gap that he's allowed Kraus is going to allow himself to get through these corners just nicely. And same with Carpenter. Sam Carpenter's kind of backed off just a touch as well, and really just letting these guys kind of wind the laps down a little bit.
We've also lost Jeff Jacobs from this race. He retired a few laps ago. Evan Rice comes into the pit lane now from 13th position. Matthias Guldager attempting to get out of the way, but he's sort of struggling, really. He's put himself on the racing line. You're very close to Craig Baxter indeed. That could have been game over for the Scotsman. Just managed to avoid it. He's really, really struggling to get out of the way, is Matthias Guldager. He's putting himself on every single place, including... he's putting himself on the racing line and making, you know what, this is Le Mans. The front runners have got to go around me. As Evan Rice doing the right thing, getting out the way, but in the process gets overtaken by Matthias Guldager, I believe. So Matthias there taking advantage of Evan Rice's pit lane, his courtesy, getting out the way of the front runners. Evan Rice has been overtaken by Matthias Guldager, and he'll be looking to get that place back as soon as possible. And here we go. Here we go. Evan Rice is going to know no-nonsense stuff from the American. Let's see if we can go on board as we head up towards turn 8 and 9. He's going to pull to the inside. And there's contact between the two of them. Matthias is moving all over the circuit. But Evan Rice now back up into 13th place. A quick and swift battle. Matthias, though, has got to look behind him. You can see that both Kieran Chadwick and Scott Davison are behind. So he's got to get out of the way as quickly as possible because you don't want to be causing any more issues. Matthias, is he going to? Yes. Yeah. He does. He's not on the racing line this time, so it's good to see from Matthias. He actually has activated DRS, so he's going to have a go at Kieran Chadwick here to unlap himself. And no, he pulls behind. Thank goodness for that. We could have. Matthias, they're trying to have. He's influencing the race
a little bit.
Scott Davison pulls into the pit lane as well.
He just wants to be talked about, dang it. But Matthias, you know that, yeah, there were a couple of questionable things, and I'm sure some questions will be raised to him. But there is a possibility he might not have his mirrors on, and he just didn't realize it. But Matthias, really the Wolf Racing squad, kind of known to be a little bit aggressive, and you don't want to go a lap down, and it is his right to fight for his lap. But once you're lapped out, you got to move over for second and third place. And granted, maybe he doesn't feel super safe running an inside line going into 13 and 14. He just wants to get through the corners more than anything. And maybe he's expecting a little bit of patience. I'm not sure. Obviously I can't read his mind, but once he realized that he was in the way, he safely pulled over. So we got to give him a little bit of credit for that. But, for next time, now he knows. He might take a little bit of a penalty, but...
Well, you say about a penalty, he might be facing the same plight as his teammate who's currently serving a race ban. I'm pretty sure Matthias is also getting fairly tight on the old penalty points. So if any of the drivers that feel as though they were impeded and that Matthias did get in the way, they may report him, and it may be another couple of penalty points to add to his license, which may tick over to a race ban for Austria. So he's got to be very, very careful, because as soon as you get a race ban, you are put on the thinnest of ice possible.
Yeah.
Really, another big mistake and you're out. So
only
the top three, they're incredibly close. Sam Carpenter is close right to the back of Craig Baxter here. Lap 28 of 49 of this Canadian Grand Prix. The drivers the front runners will be maybe looking to pit again. Scott Davison pitted on the last lap out. There's no real close battles. The closest battle I'm for actually is the top three, separated by less than a second. 5/10 between Philip and Sam, and Craig Baxter is in between those two. But we can see, I believe that is Callum Roberts in the Royal Blue is going to be starting to have his mark on this Canadian Grand Prix. Nope, he pulls into the pit lane. He gets out the way, I think. Okay. He gets out the way. No, actually, my apologies. No, he's well and truly still involved. He's keeping out front.
Kind of wondering if he's going to help out his blue counterpart in Sam Carpenter. Granted, they are on different teams.
Different shades of blue.
Slightly different
Blue
shades.
brothers,
A bit of a sky blue through Sam Carpenter.
Sky blue.
Callum rocking the slightly navy blue, yes. Sorry, it's a royal blue because the Royal Blue Racing, see? Yeah, no, see, it all makes sense. Everything ties in.
This is quite quickly turning into a Bob Ross episode, but we'll focus on the racing rather than the colours. Here on lap 29 of 49.
Every happy tree needs a friend.
There's a lot of happy trees around this Canadian circuit, but there won't be a very happy Philip Kraus if Callum Roberts doesn't get out of the way in a minute, because he does though. Here we go. He's going to get well and truly out of the way on the exit of turn 10. Fantastic decision, fantastic execution. 10 out of 10. Lap car work there from Callum Roberts.
You know what? No. I can't give him a 10 out of 10. I'm going to give that one an 8, only because he got out of the way, but Craig Baxter made a huge pass on Kraus.
So a poor exit for Philip Kraus means that Craig Baxter back up to the lead of the race. He may have saved enough fuel now, but here comes Sam Carpenter. He's going to try and go around the outside into turn 1. Is Sam Carpenter going to be able to hold it? Yes, he is. What a fantastic move there from the Brit on the American. But will Philip Kraus be able to fight his way back up into turn number 3? No, it just doesn't seem to be close enough. So Sam Carpenter, Philip Kraus losing 2 places in the space of about a sector. Unfortunate there for him, but fantastic there for both Baxter and Carpenter to move themselves up as Craig Baxter goes purple in the first sector. That does not surprise me in the slightest. As the Scotsman's going to be charging his way now out into the lead of the race. There's a gap of about 1.3 seconds between Baxter and Carpenter.
I'm trying to keep my eye on Kraus right now. He was running very well in the lead of the race, and looks like he might be a touch shaken up. Has nice late apex through turn 10, but I wonder if he overheated his tires just a little bit, trying to stay in the lead, unless he needs to back off for fuel. It's kind of tough to tell. I can't really see that on the steering wheel, unfortunately.
Fuel's a big anomaly, always in racing, especially in Formula One, where they just don't have refueling, obviously. But it's always a big anomaly. This is I'm pretty sure this is the hardest track in terms of fuel consumption.
Oh, sure.
You've got to save a huge amount of fuel. You can't really be running in the high engine mixtures for very long at all, especially in a race where you're on your own. If you're, for instance, Evan Rice down 13th place, where there's nowhere near. The biggest gap at the moment is poor old Jacob Reed, who's 12 seconds behind Scott Davison, 6th and 7th, separated by about 12 seconds. So Jacob Reed, I fear to think what his fuel's currently doing, but Scott Davison goes purple and moves himself up ahead of Jacob Reed, who's down to 7th. So Scott Davison sits at 1 minute 12.8, which is about 2/10 faster than his teammate's fastest lap this race. So very impressive from Scott Davison.
I have a feeling Scott's going to be looking at a top 5 finish here. 19 laps to go. So Scott might have just turned up the fuel a little bit. He's running on the supers right now, so I have a feeling his tires are starting to go away a little bit, and he wants to use
they're fresh
the
supers.
Time. Oh, they are fresh.
They're fresh supers. So he has pitted for a second time, so that might be his only stop this race. So
you're right. He did.
The person I'm really interested in is Kieran Chadwick. I'm not 100% sure if he's trying the one stop, but if he is, he's only 5 seconds off the lead of the race, which would be about a 15-second gap once the leaders pit for their final stop. Would the leaders be able to close down 15 seconds in these dying stages of this race and get themselves ahead of Kieran Chadwick, or will Kieran just follow the rest of the pack and settle for a 4th or a 5th place?
Yeah, that's the big question right now. Reed's coming into the pits though. He has completely exhausted those super softs. Still looking at top 10 though. So a good showing there for Jacob Reed.
we've got Evan Rice down still in 13th place. He's 5.3 seconds behind, or smoke, made that 6, sorry, behind Callum Roberts, who's in 12th place. Juka Pikalalu is 20 seconds ahead of Callum Roberts with just 2.2 seconds to Dionysus Farios in 10th place, who go green. His fastest lap of the race thus far, same for Juka Pika. So those two drivers will be really fighting it for the final points place in this race. You can see they just continue on. Craig Baxter consistently going faster than the other drivers. They're 4/10 to Sam, and then Philip was a 10th behind Sam. So Craig's got about a half a second pace difference over the two drivers behind him. So really starting to look dominant. Philip gets a huge slide through turn number 4. Really starting to struggle on those super soft tyres. They may be starting to go off a bit of a cliff, but he's sort of in a point where if he pits now for a set of ultras, he'll have to take them 16 laps, which I don't think is quite long enough. Yeah,
no, they won't do it. I mean, there's only maybe one person on the track who could do that. Kieran, maybe, but
yes,
not a good idea.
Not a good idea at all. Tommy Alato goes green, set his fastest lap of the race thus far, a 15 dead. As Adam Cronin does the same as well, 15.2. So he's about 4 seconds behind, but Jukapeka Lalu, DNS Farios, 10th and 11th. Here we go, the battle that we've all been waiting for. Lalu closing up on Farios. The Vessel Sim racing car of Lalu from Finland, closing in on the Stupid Motorsport car, the Greek Stupid Motorsport car of Farios. Lalu might be close enough to make a move, I don't think. Maybe he's progressively getting closer. As Sam Carpenter has lost 2 positions, he's pitting. Oh, jeez, that gave me a fright then. I thought that we were having a bit of a change of position, but we actually do. We've got Scott Davison has now moved ahead of Ken White. 6th, 5th, and 6th have changed positions. So where's Sam Carpenter going to come out? He's going to reappear. He's in 4th. He's reappeared in 4th place. So Kieran Chapik has come out ahead. We're still on board with Jukapeka Lalu, who's really starting to put the... Here we go, he's putting the pressure on. Here we go, on Farios. He's going to try and go around the outside into turn number 12, I think. Farios has backed out of the move. Yeah, he has. He's struggling to hit 300 kilometers an hour. Is Lalu, is he going to mark up the final few corners? No, I think Farios has realised that fuel might be tight and it might be a bit risky to try and use the richer engine mixtures to try and go for it. But let's see, will Philip Krause be able to do the overcut, or will Sam Carpenter be able to extend his gap with an undercut? That is the main question that we've got here. Lap 35 of 49 here in Canada.
Even Chadwick is having a little bit of an issue, just kind of keeping pace really with the top 2. But Krause looking mighty fine right now. I have a feeling that he might be just trying to manage the gap here with Craig Baxter more than anything. Possibly not come in, finish out the race on those tires.
Oh, that'll be a stretch and a half. But Kieran Chadwick did go about 4/10 faster than Craig Baxter on that lap. So Kieran starting to close the gap a little bit on Craig Baxter, but to me, he looks like he is on that one-stop strategy just to run the, I believe he's on, is it the Super Softs? He's going to try and run the Super Softs to the end. Sam Carpenter goes purple through the first sector, 20.7, about half a second faster than Craig Baxter. So maybe Sam might be able to put the blowtorch on Craig Baxter and might be able to pull off a worldy undercut on Craig Baxter instead.
Kenyon White just came out of the pits on Hypersofts, and the leader's in the pits, so is Krause.
Yeah, they've both come into the pit lane.
There goes Chadwick.
Chadwick goes by. He leads this race.
Robert's got a lap back.
Let's see where Sam Carpenter's going to be. Will he be able to jump the both of them?
He does.
Here we go. He's going to come into turn 1. Will the pit lane be able to... Craig Baxter's just going to come out ahead. Will Sam be able to get the better run? Oh, it's a mere couple of tenths. Craig Baxter will be struggling with tyre warm-up. Will Sam Carpenter be able to try and get ahead while Craig's trying to warm up those tyres? Just doesn't seem to be so. The tyre warm-up is so quick with Craig Baxter. The setup just allows for instantaneous warm-up, just like the click of a finger. It was so close. Maybe one more lap. If Craig stayed out another lap, Sam would have had him, I think, and that just would be really frustrating. Kenyon White goes purple through the final sector with a 28.6. Sam Carpenter's currently got the fastest lap of the race with a 1 minute 12.5, so he's going a lot faster than Kieran Chadwick. The gap between them is about 5 seconds between Craig and Kieran. The car ahead is not Kieran Chadwick, it's actually Kieran's teammate Evan Rice, who's in 13th position.
Yeah, both Evan and Callum Roberts got their laps back, I believe, on the field. I don't think. Yeah, no, you know what? They did not get their lap back, but they could potentially do this if Kieran comes into the pits. There's a possibility that both Callum Roberts and Evan Rice gets their lap back and maybe, possibly challenge for 11th or maybe 10th place, but they're going to have to put the pedal to the metal here very quickly as the laps are starting to wind down.
We've got purple sectors popping up everywhere. We've got Jacob Reed who's gone fastest in the first sector. Cam White's gone fastest in the second sector. And now Craig Baxter has stolen that first fastest sector accolade. Cam White puts in the fastest lap of the race with a 1 minute 12.251. Craig Baxter looks to be on a storming drive to maybe diminish and to cut that lap time down by maybe half a second as Gelato comes in the pits from 9th place in this race. Lap 37 of 49 here in Canada. It looks to be, is it a drive-through penalty for Gelato? So disappointing from Gelato. And he's going to come out side by side with, I believe it's Chukwuemeka Lalu. So Lalu up into 9th place, but Gelato looks like he could be fighting back here against the Finnish driver. Fin on fin action. So they head through turn number 4, now into turn number 5. He just doesn't seem like he's going to be close enough. Farios down in 11th place. As the battle between Sam and Philip seems to be closing up. Craig Baxter has disappeared up the road. He went fastest in the first and second sectors, but hasn't been able to beat Cam White's lap. Craig Baxter, let's see what he does through the first sector split. Will he go purple again? No, he doesn't. He goes only 0.2 faster than Kieran Chadwick on this lap, so he's closing in the gap. The gap is... It's actually increased dramatically. It's about,
it's about
6 seconds.
7 seconds, yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, Chadwick now can focus on extending those tires out as much as he can, trying to save the fuel, do all the things that Baxter was doing to him. And I mean, there's a possibility that Craig might end up in 2nd place. The last time he got a 2nd was at round 3, and with a 3rd back in.
Yes, Phil Kraus is now going to move ahead of Sam Carpenter in the background. He now moves up ahead of Sam Carpenter, up into what he will be 2nd place. But here comes Sam Carpenter. He's going to be in the slipstream of Philip Kraus. Will he make a bold and daring move into turn 1? No, he doesn't. I think Philip Kraus is disconnected, has he?
Kraus is discoed.
Philip Kraus has disappeared.
Oh,
so
no.
Out of what was 2nd place, Philip Kraus
he
is
came
now...
back.
Oh, he's back. Voila. Oh,
and
no,
he's out.
He's out. Okay. So, a moment of confusion. The World Wide Web has struck again. Philip Kraus out of this race. Dramatic, and that is a very unfortunate way to be out of this race. So he's out, and that now has implications for this race. Craig Baxter will most likely now stomp to the win.
Kraus was such a great run. That is heartbreaking. Honestly, Kraus has proved that he's able to be up there. He should not. I mean, he should be a little bit ticked off at the fact that his internet dropped on him or whatever happened between him and the server. But Chadwick now into the pits.
To the leader. He's not going to be going to the end. So that means that Craig Baxter's going to lead ahead of Sam Carpenter, with Scott Davison now out of nowhere up to 3rd place in this race as Philip Kraus falls down the pecking order. He was looking good. He had just gone purple in the final sector. Kieran Chadwick has had a really poor final sector, but that's because he's obviously pitted. He comes out, though, in 3rd place on a set of Hypersoft tyres. So watch out for Kieran Chadwick. He is about 5 seconds behind Sam Carpenter on a set of Hypersoft tyres, 9 laps to the end. Will he be able to close down and pass Sam Carpenter?
Close down, probably. Pass, that's the kicker. With Sam running quite quickly right now, he's putting in green sectors all over the place and keeping a fair pace. honestly, with Craig Baxter. So it's going to come down to the fact that Kieran has Evan Rice in front of him, his teammate.
Oh, he'll get out of the way.
Yeah,
He'll
well,
get out of the way
either
pretty easily.
Evan will either get out of the way or try to drag his teammate up to the front using a bit of draft. We'll have to see what he does. Yeah, no, Evan's just going to get out of the way.
That's the simple option, the least risk. And I think that was the smartest thing to do. Evan Rice might even peel into the pit lane himself to think, you know what, let's see if we can get the fastest lap of the race. But actually, to be honest, Evan Rice, who was down in last place at the start of this race,
Yeah.
up to 12th, so points are not out of the question yet.
Yeah, he's trying to catch himself up to Callum Roberts, which
who's only about
is
2 seconds
possible.
behind. Who's only 2 seconds behind Farios.
So, I mean, he could. He's gonna have to put in some pretty crazy 9 laps or so to make that happen. But Evan Rice could potentially salvage a bit of a race from this one. Near disaster, but not quite, as it looks like the field is kind of spread out a little bit. Chadwick's got 5 seconds behind Sam Carpenter, and Carpenter with just about 4.5. So Baxter potentially saving fuel, definitely saving tires. So we'll have to see exactly what happened with Baxter, as I have a feeling he's just going to try to make his marks. He's already short shifting. I mean, you might as well save the fuel while you can, as DNS's Ferros goes a lap down as well. So a lot of DNFs. This race, this was going to be a tough one, and it really comes down to just attrition. The drivers, yeah, they're battling it out, but it's a lot like Monaco. In fact, how the walls are so close, and you are going so much faster and making sure that you hit those marks. I can't express that enough, especially with these very fragile F1 cars, as I'm actually on board with Craig Baxter, and you can tell by the way he's short shifting like a madman. He's not pushing his car at all, whereas Sam is definitely pushing his car much harder than Craig is. There is a definite possibility that Sam could break into a little bit of a battle for the lead, or at least try to catch him. And Kieran farther behind, he's got a little bit of lap traffic in front of him, of course, with Danis Faros. Scott Davison way far behind as well, and Kean White in the top 5. Now, he's pushing hard. He wants to see if he can get a couple of more points, but he's got quite a gap between him and Scott Davison, about 7 seconds. Scott is actually in the pits. White needs to get his move on if he wants to get into the top 5. Is Kean White banging through the last chicane? He will pass Scott Davison. Scott just barely coming out of his pits, but he's got hyper softs on. Kean has the ultra softs, so Kean is definitely gonna have to make sure he hits his marks. Hopefully he hasn't fried those tires, trying to catch up to 4th place now. And Scott Davison comes out. He's going to warm those tires up quickly, making his way through the first of the Senna S's. Have to be so accurate through there. Adam Cronin coming in. He's looking very strong in a top 10 place. He's probably going to go on to a set of hypersofts as well. Tommy Lato slots into 7th.
Lalu up to 8th. Very impressive.
Yeah.
Jacob Reed's really been the driver for me so far this race. In 6th place in the Schubert Motorsport car.
Yeah, he's doing
very good indeed.
The credit to Jacob Reed for making his tires go as long as he has. He's been running the super softs for quite a while, if I'm not mistaken. As I try to look up when he pitted, I don't exactly see when he did, and really Scott Davison is the only one that's pitted 3 times this race, and somehow he's in the top 5.
Struggled for tyre wear throughout this race, I think, as Scott. Was on a different strategy to pretty much the entire field, but he's got 6.9 seconds to gain on Kean White and make a move and put himself up into 4th place in this race, which would be a really good result for Scott. Obviously, has had a luckless season thus far with incidents plenty. A 4th or even a 5th would be a very good return to form.
He does have a 5th on his record, but that DNF I believe that was in Spain.
Yes.
Really hurting him hard. He's had he's had 3 top 10 finishes. He's been in the points, so he's got the speed. He just needs to put it together.
As Yolata gets a big slide out of turn 2. The ultra soft tyres for Yolata seem to be fading quite significantly. Scott Davison goes purple in the first 2 sectors. So here comes Scott Davison. Watch out, Kenyon White. This could be very interesting indeed. It's going to be Craig Baxter on lap 45 now, 49 here in this Canadian Grand Prix. Just leading the way.
Scott Davison is set up for a purple lap. He's
Flying,
got purple.
absolutely flying.
Yeah, wait, yeah, a 1:11.6.
First man to the 11s, big time.
Wow. I believe that we are officially stunned.
Gobsmacked. He's putting down the fast laps. He's gained a second this lap alone on Kenyon White. So Kenyon shaking in his boots here on lap 45 or 49 of this Canadian Grand Prix. It's got Kieran Chadwick in third, Sam Carpenter in second, Craig Baxter leading the way by 6.3 seconds. He'll just be happy he's got enough fuel to get to the end of this race, or else we could see a spectacular final lap fuel burnout where he just splutters across the line or splutters out before the line.
Just pull the clutch. Pull in that clutch. Coast all the way down the casino straight. No problem.
Yeah, Scott Davidson closed another second this lap on Kenyon White. So it's going to be incredibly close. Callum Roberts has put himself up into 10th place in this race ahead of Dean Estes Farios.
Scott Davison spun.
As he spun on the main straight. I think there's any chance of getting 4th place for Scott Davison. The gap is increasing. It's out to about 11 seconds. So Scott looking so promising. He now will just have to hope the tyre, well, actually, hopefully he hasn't got massive flat spots because he might have to pit again, which could put him under some jeopardy from Jacob Reed to steal that 5th place away from him.
And Scott Davison actually slapped on the wall a couple of times in the wall of, I think it was just after the Wall of Champions, actually. So, yeah, according to the drinking game rules, that does not count.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I shall hold my drink.
Yes, please.
See.
Yeah. Scott definitely going to try to salvage a 5th place out of this. He's got quite the gap to Jacob Reed. And in the closing stages here, I think he'll be okay. He's just got to keep it together. That's the hard part, really, when you got some suspension damage, especially on the rear of these cars.
Speaking of closing, Kieran Chadwick has halved the gap to Sam Carpenter.
Oh, my goodness.
It's down to 2.5 seconds here on lap 47 or 49 of this Canadian Grand Prix. Craig Baxter heading through turn 7 now, heading up towards turn 8, coming into some back markers, but they'll get out the way, I hope. Matthias Guldager, I think, is the first cab off the rank for Craig Baxter to be lapping for a second time in this race. So you can see Sam Carpenter in second, 2.8 seconds ahead of Kieran Chadwick, with Kenyon White quite a ways away behind, with Scott Davison now even further behind thanks to that spin on the main straight.
Trying to see if Kieran will be able to catch Sam. He's running quite a bit faster than Sam.
The gap's
Carpenter.
down to 2 seconds now, so the move could be on.
Last lap he ran a whole half second faster.
So we're now on the penultimate lap of this race. Craig Baxter started lap 48 or 49.
I think Chadwick can do it. He can at least catch him.
Well, the car ahead of Sam Carpenter is it's Adam Cronin, I believe. Adam Cronin could play a massive part in this race. No, he gets out the way. That's very smart indeed. He's now got to hope that he doesn't get in the way of Kieran Chadwick. No, he doesn't. That's very clean from Cronin.
Oh,
Sam Carpenter, I think, clean air to the end of this race now for Carpenter, unless something happens to a back marker. But Craig Baxter now heading to turn number 10. He's looked good all race. He's maintained the fuel. He's maintained the tyres. A 2-stop race seems to have worked for him. He heads onto the back straight now. The gap is down to 1.6 seconds between Chadwick and Carpenter. The battle that I'm really interested in at the moment is between between Lalu and Gelato. The two Finns going back at it as they head into turn 1.
Ooh, here we go.
It just seems to be so close as Craig Baxter, who is right behind them, about to lap them, has started the final lap of this race. So the battle at the moment, Craig Baxter, 5.9 seconds ahead, but behind him, the man behind him, Sam Carpenter, has only got a 1.2 second gap to the car behind, which is Kieran Chadwick on the Hypersoft tyres, really looming large in the mirrors of the Sabre. Craig Baxter now heads through turn number 7. He's looked fantastic all race. We can see lapped cars in front of him who he don't think he'll pass, because he just has a gap where he can let them battle on for another lap. He doesn't have to cause too much of an issue in getting in the way. He's looked fantastic all race.
Chadwick really starting to close up on Carpenter.
8 tenths. But
this is getting tense. I mean, there is a possibility that Chadwick might just go full bore here in the waning moments of the Canadian Grand Prix. It's going to come down to Carpenter just keeping himself on the line, don't spin those tires, and just conserve as much as possible. But Chadwick will have DRS from here.
We can see now Craig Baxter's now going to come through the final corner. He's going to come through, and he's going to win this Canadian Grand Prix, 49 laps. He's mastered them all. Craig Baxter wins. Let's see, is it going to be close between Chadwick and Carpenter? It's going to be a run to the line.
Oh.
No, just not close enough for Chadwick on Carpenter. Barely, but it's going to be Kean White. He's going to come home for 4th place. Craig Baxter, fantastic win ahead of Sam Carpenter, with Kieran Chadwick coming through for 3rd place. It's going to be Kean White who's going to come home for 4th.
Great showing.
Just keeping on the road. Scott Davison's going to come home for 5th place.
Huge day for Kean White. He's had a couple of rough goes in the last, well, really the first part of this whole season. Sitting in 6th place, but he had a couple of DNFs there, round 3 and round 4. So Kean has got to be happy with that performance. Coming in 4th place, he's improved. He's matched his Australia finish, and I have to admit, a massive improvement in his just quality of driving overall. Great job by Kean.
Speaking of quality driving, Jacob Reed comes over for 6th place in the Stupid Motorsport car. Stuka Lalu is going to come across the line. He's going to get 7th ahead of Gelato. Might be a last lap gap. We've got Adam Cronin, who's already in the pits, and Dinas Farios, who finished in 10th. Callum Roberts in 11th. So, yeah, but it was a close race, close battle at the end. But Craig Baxter comes out on top ahead of Sam Carpenter and Kieran Chadwick in 3rd place.
It's just, this turned into a full-blown race of attrition. Lots of people got knocked out of the race just from mistakes. Now, this track does punish mistakes harshly. You barely tap that wall, you might get sent onto the other side of the track. And coming through the Senna S's, if you just barely extend just a touch too far, you're in the wall, you're going to take suspension damage. You could pop a wheel up and throw you back into said wall. We saw a lot of lost wings, and we saw a lot of heated tempers too, as this track can really mess with your head, especially if you don't get that first sector just right. It kind of just messes up the whole lap, as the whole last sector basically is a big long straightaway with a chicane in it. Do have to nail that chicane dead on, of course, but it's a track of precision, and you have to be absolutely perfect in just about everything you do. But huge props to all the finishers. We had, 21 cars, I believe? I think we had 20 cars.
Of 20 cars, about, I think, 15 finishes in the end.
Yeah, it was a rough one for a lot of people, but this was definitely a learning experience for a lot of drivers today. Matthias Guldager had a couple of incidences that maybe one or two might need to be looked at, but he had himself a fairly clean race and got out of the way and did all the things he was supposed to do as a back marker. So he's starting to prove himself a little bit more for the Wolf Racing squad. And like we've said time and time again, Zach, it's really just come down to who can be the most consistent as far as driving this track. And Craig Baxter found himself in a little bit of an awkward position down to third place as he was moving through. But, he stayed patient and snagged himself another win. It'll be the 4th of this season.
Yeah, he's really put himself, I think, now into the lead of this championship for the first time this season. So that's fantastic heading into the Austrian Grand Prix. That's probably the best thing he can do. Obviously, leading a championship and leading the Formula One championship, for the first time this year with Kieran, who's led pretty much from the first race in Australia.
Yeah, Kieran has just been super strong all season. He had a 4th place in Spain, but that's been his worst finishing position so far this year. So Craig got bit a little bit in Australia, and he's finally recovering points-wise. But it's really going to come down to if Baxter can keep this up. With Chadwick starting to get even faster than he already is, it's going to be a tough one. But, we look at Sam Carpenter, Philip Kraus doing a bang-up job, absolute bang-up job. Everybody in the top 5 of the championship. Man,
Philip obviously very unlucky to be DNFing out of that race.
yeah, but he showed amazing speed. He's there. He's just got to sort out that. I don't know if it's an internet connection issue. Maybe somebody turned on Netflix and it loaded in, and that's what kicked him. We've seen that time and time again.
The World Wide Web.
I believe we are ready for an interview. If we can get one of the drivers in here.
Let's see if we can find the race winner, Craig Baxter. Let's see. Just see if he's available. Let's see. If we can't find Craig. Oh, yep, he's ready. Right, we'll move him up now. Craig, are you here? Is he here?
Greg. Hello.
The Canadian Grand Prix race winner?
That guy. He must have run to the bathroom. I mean, let's face it, after actually a fairly tough race, he had to recover a little bit and saving fuel. There's a lot of strategy going on. Might have been a couple of clincher moments. He had to go, just relax for a second.
Yes, what we might do is we might see if we'll grab the second place man, Sam Carpenter, and we'll come back to Craig Baxter. Let's see. We'll just ask Sam if he's all good for an interview. Just see if he's around. Sam also may have disappeared. We'll go to the third place man then and see if Kieran is around.
The drivers
have all disappeared.
Yeah, they need to recover after. And I mean, let's face it, this is a tense race all around.
We've got Kieran. Here we go. Let's see if we can get Kieran.
Possibly, maybe.
Kieran, are you here?
Hello.
Oh, we've got a driver. We've got a driver to talk to. Kieran, a very close race there between you and Sam at the end. Only a couple of tenths in it. Was the choice to go on the hypers the best, or should you have stayed out, do you think?
I felt like it because from what I could see on my tyre wear, I didn't think I was going to make it to the end of the race. And if I did, I would have lost a hell of a lot of time. But I should have pitted earlier for the hypers because I ended the race with plenty of life left in them, and I would have been able to get Sam if I'd pitted a couple laps earlier.
Yeah, he looked to be struggling. Obviously, I think he was on the super soft tyres at the end of the race, and obviously the hardest compound versus the softest compound, you were absolutely flying. How'd you go with fuel? Obviously, fuel was a very big factor in the race. Were you fine on fuel at the end of the race?
Yeah, I had about a litre left. So I was basically using my time behind the slower cars to just save fuel in the DRS.
Okay.
So that would help me later in the race because I knew I'd be able to get past them.
Fuel being such an issue. Also, this track claimed 5 drivers in it. Really not a ton of incidences to talk about too much. Did you see much in the back markers at all? I mean, it seemed like traffic wasn't too bad, all things considered. I think there were some complaints earlier, saying that this track would be tough on it, but everybody seemed to kind of just get out of the way when they needed to.
No, backmarkers were good. It seems like the slower cars are finally getting the hang of letting the leaders through. So that's good to see.
I know in endurance racing we have the 24 hours of Le Mans coming up here pretty quick. Endurance racing, it is the responsibility of the faster car to get around the slower car, and the slower car to actually stay on the line. So and we saw a little bit of that. Did you see any of that at all when you had to make your passes, or no?
No, because obviously F1's different. It's
Of course.
the duty of the slower car to get by. So everyone followed that. Everyone that I passed followed that rule.
Very good. Yeah, we've had a couple of issues in the past, and the only reason why I bring it up, but you brought up the fuel strategy, brought up the tire strategy already. Honestly, just a smooth race for you in general. I found the lead a couple of times, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I probably should have followed the same strategy as the leaders, because what I did didn't work. I shouldn't have tried something different in that race.
It was
Well,
refreshing,
obviously,
though. So
yeah.
good on you, at least.
And obviously, we moved to Austria next for the Austrian Grand Prix at Spielberg. How do you feel going into that race?
Well, short track again, so gaps are going to be close. I need to get a grip because today I was nowhere in quali. I need to pick up the pace if I want to try and actually win.
Yep. Obviously, yes, you've lost the championship lead the first time this season that's happened. You'll be able. Do you think you will be able to strike back against Craig in Austria?
I hope so, and I also hope that Sam and Phil, if I'm not fighting for the lead, one of them is, because I can't have Craig just constantly pulling away. I need the other guys to help.
Okay. Well done. Congratulations on P3.
Thank you.
We'll see you in Austria.
Cheers.
Rightio. We'll move Sam down. Sam, are you here?
I am.
Hello. Well done. P2. Very close one in the end, it seemed, between you and Kieran.
Very.
How did you feel as though that you were going to lose that P2 to Kieran?
Well, my tyres felt good for those last few laps, and just at the end, I was just starting to fall out of the rhythm again. But Kieran really just sort of found something in the last 3 laps or so, and I didn't really expect it to be as close as it was at the end. Really turned up his engine, really found his rhythm in the last, like, maybe even just 2 laps. But yeah, happy with the pace, and very happy that I didn't actually have a spin at Canada.
And obviously, your main rival in this race, Philip Kraus, disintegrated in the dying stages of the race. Were you, did you breathe a sigh of relief when he retired?
I mean, you obviously feel sorry for someone when it happens to them. It's you want healthy competition at the front, and when something like that happens, it's a bit of a bummer. But you've got to take the points really and just move on with it. And I'm going to be targeting Kieran hopefully in the championship soon. So yeah.
A bold statement indeed. We head to Austria next. A race that you've got a bit of a turbulent history with, but in rFactor 2, how do you feel you can go around the Spielberg circuit?
Fast and erratic is the words I would use to describe me around there. Obviously don't know how it's going to be in this car. It's a track that's a lot of high-speed corners, which may be a trouble for tyre wear. Just have to see how it goes on the lead up to the race, and probably be able to give a better opinion on that once we get there.
Well, congratulations on P2. Good points for Sabre Racing. We'll see you in Austria.
You too. Thank you.
Rightio, we'll see if we can grab the race winner, Craig Baxter. Let's just see. See if he's going to be here. Yep. Okay. Craig, you here?
Yes, I am.
Wow, well done. P1, I think Curtis said your 4th win of the season. How'd you feel that went, that race?
Well, I learned from my mistake in Turkey by I deliberately dropped behind Phil just to save so much fuel. the amount of fuel you can save sitting in the slipstream is crazy. So as obviously Kieran done that to me in Turkey and didn't have to save at the end, I dropped behind Phil and basically did the same thing until I had enough fuel saved, and then just went back past them.
Yeah, it was proving to be a bit of an interesting battle between you, Philip, and Sam. Obviously, with the fuel, everyone was so tight on it. How'd you feel when you saw that Phil just disintegrated off the track in the dying stages of the race?
It's probably the worst way to, well, not finish a race. I mean, through no fault of his own. Was going to get second place. I mean, I don't think he was close enough, and he didn't really have the pace over me. I think the gap was probably about 2.83 seconds, so he probably wouldn't have closed that down. Probably been a more exciting finish to the race, but yeah, it's the worst way to lose, well, to not finish a race.
And obviously the back markers, they seem to be a lot better than they were in previous races. Is that the same feeling that you feel?
There was I think it was they're learning, so it's getting better. I don't know about many other people, but yeah, it seemed okay.
Very good. Well, we head to Austria next for Spielberg at the Red Bull Ring for the Austrian Grand Prix. How do you feel going to that circuit?
I don't know. It's mixed emotions really, because I mean I'm always quick there in race pace, but because it's such a short lap and because of track limits, you always need to you need to back off, because you're almost going to track extend a corner. You can lose 2/10, and that could be the difference between first place and like 8th place. So it's probably going to be decided in qualifying in terms of who's going to be fighting for the win.
Well, congratulations on your 4th win of the season. You take the championship lead for the first time this season. We'll see you in Austria.
Thank you.
Well, there we go, Curtis. A sensational race with a sensational outcome.
All in all, a fantastic race, and it really just came down to driver error more than anything. Kind of forcing these guys to be accurate, and I think a lot of lessons were learned today as to what these drivers need to work on personally, and with a lot of fuel saving needed and a lot of tire saving needed, lessons were learned, I believe, by everybody who raced here today. So a good race overall. I think this might be one of the cleanest races we've had this season.
Yeah, and it was probably one of the most interesting circuits for that clean race to occur, obviously, with it being such a short lap, such a fast lap. There's always room for error and room for a crash or two, as we saw with Branthome and I believe it was D'Amelio.
It was, yeah.
In the pretty early stages of the race. But nonetheless, a fantastic drive from all the drivers that finished the race, all the way down to Matthias Gaudager, who had a fairly decent race getting out the way. It was good. It was good to see.
It was definitely good to see. A very refreshing race, I have to admit. Lots of close racing, a couple of touches here and there, but honestly, very clean, very precise racing, and great strategy calls by really the whole top 5 and even the top 8. It was fairly close until towards the end when some gaps were had. But other than that, I mean, we can't really complain. I have to admit, this is the best race we've had all season.
Yeah, yep, it certainly was. But we now move to the Austrian Grand Prix next weekend, the 2nd of the 6th, at the Red Bull Ring in Spielberg. We hope you can join us. Curtis and I will be there. Will you be there next week, Curtis?
I will not. I'll actually be in Austin, Texas, attending DreamHack Austin. I will be shoutcasting Collegiate Rocket League on Friday. So feel free to tune into that if you want some more of my sultry tones that aren't very sultry.
Well, I'll be here. I'll be here for Austria. We'll see if we can rustle up maybe a second commentator, but I'll certainly be there, and I hope to see you all next week in Austria. Goodbye.
Yeah.